and welcome to the latest version. I'm Betsy Bush. My guest today is Persephone Zill. She is Program Director of the Women's Enterprise Development Center in White Plains, New York. Persephone, we have been talking on the latest version about people in midlife making transitions, and that is exactly what you help people do at the what we're calling WEDC, which it's a mouthful for Women's Enterprise Development Center. But you have not only helped many, many women make a transition from whatever career or life journey they'd been on to looking at what they want to do and helping make those dreams a reality. But I also think that you have gone on this journey yourself. And so you have been able, because you have had that experience, to help people figure out what it is they want to do next. Tell us a little bit about your own journey.
Sure. Thank you, Betsy. It's my pleasure to be here today and to represent WEDC. We're a resource partner of the Small Business Administration, and our purpose is to help women and minorities start and grow businesses. And yes, we do absolutely assist at transition points in people's careers to basically take that dream that in your heart and come and learn about what a business plan is and marketing and social media and business, structures, legal aspects. And anyway, we help take that dream and make it into an actionable plan. Mm-hmm. So you asked about my own personal experience. When my children were little, I had my own business and career coaching practice. And I got to experience all the both positives and the sort of challenges of being in business in terms of having to develop a brand and a website and go out and market myself. And I absolutely loved the work. I loved working one-on-one, but I just wasn't much of a self-promoter. And kind of entrepreneurship requires a lot of you are the product or yes. service, and you need to keep positioning yourself and branding yourself. And
as any podcaster will tell you,
3 years.
Yes, any podcaster will tell you it's a lot about branding yourself. Yes.
Yeah. So after about 3 years, I actually dissolved my coaching business and decided to work at the nonprofit where I currently am, where the clients come to us from the marketing by both our nonprofit and also the Small Business Administration. And so when I help people, when I counsel people, I very much know what I'm talking about. Right. And for me, the right decision was to actually go back and work as a team. But I will always tell clients that come in, you have to really enjoy problems. You have to wake up as an entrepreneur and say, who do I know? How can they help me? Really enjoy kind of the juggling of many different aspects of things. So it could be everything from, the employees to the marketing, to the financing, to the taking the trash out at the end of the night. You really have to enjoy juggling and kind of setting your mind to action. A lot of people want to start businesses, but they really just keep thinking about it and keep testing that website, but they're not really taking the actions. And so that's what we at WEDC really try to create we have a 4-month class where you develop your business plan, and it's a sort of safe environment to really reveal, I don't like looking at the finances, or I'm uncomfortable doing the sales pitch or asking for the credit card. And so we do a training where you work on those skills with other people and realize you're not alone. It is kind of, I call it growing your courage muscle. And so we offer the business education as well as the empowerment and the practice to do this, to take your idea and really roll it out.
Do you find that there are people who there's just a large disconnect between what they want to do, what they envision themselves doing, and where they are at that moment? Or even, what are do they have the skills or the knowledge to get from where they are to that point that they envision? And what do you do when it comes to maybe redirecting someone into something that's maybe more realistic? Do you encourage the dream, or do you say, let's scale back that dream and make that something that's achievable?
That's a great question. And when people come in for counseling before taking our class, yes, I absolutely try to work with them on what are their passions, what are their skills, their kind of natural abilities, gifts, and talents, and then what experiences have they had in their working life and even their hobbies that really would, if you sort of look at the Venn diagram of their interests, their passions, their skills, and their experiences, I try to guide gently, sometimes redirecting to things that are business ideas that are a fit for who they are. Not something that maybe they just see a need in the marketplace or they have an interest in growing and learning in that direction, but it doesn't necessarily use their what they have to work with. And I think of a client that went through our training in the fall, and she wanted a roller rink in Westchester, and she spent a lot of energy figuring out real estate and licenses and just all sorts of what would go into starting and managing a large property and all the headaches and things that could come up. And by the end of the class, she realized she didn't have the financing for that scale of a roller rink, and she didn't have she wasn't really that interested in operating a property. And so by the end of the class, she had identified that children's programming, engaging children in very interesting programming that would enrich their lives and help with maybe getting out of circumstances that were not ideal, that was her passion. And so that was a much more realistic idea to pursue. And so she took our 4-month class, but she didn't spend the time, energy, and money starting a roller rink. She realized after a sort of a de-risking process, which is what the business planning process is, that it was more the programming than anything to do with owning and operating a roller rink.
That is so interesting. So she had this idea of maybe kids having fun, doing something on the weekends that with a bunch of friends, and she pictured that on a roller rink, but that activity could happen someplace else that wouldn't involve. I mean, a roller rink in Westchester, it's very ambitious, so maybe okay. So that's an incredibly valuable process to have gone through, and saved her, I'm sure,
and that's why
a lot of money.
Yeah, time, energy, money. And that's what we really recommend if you are at a point and you want to switch careers, test it out, go and work part-time, do an internship or volunteer and really see, does it match with what your interests and abilities are? I know when I was in graduate school, I got an MBA. I had thought I wanted to open a gift shop, and I worked for a semester in manufacturers reps in the gift industry in New York City. I worked for a manufacturer's rep, and I did not have the skills. I did not know how to put things out on a shelf in a beautiful way. I didn't know how to really identify the hot, trendy, new frame or belt buckle or vase. And yet I got a lot of sample sale gifts from my, my semester working there. I met some really nice people, but I realized that just from seeing all the gift shop owners come through to pick out their newest line of what they were going to offer the next season, that wasn't my skill set. And so I still love gifts to this day, but I'm really glad I did not open a gift shop.
Interesting. Sometimes we have this dream of, maybe you're sitting at your desk at a boring job and you're thinking, oh, right now I could be doing, whatever. Maybe sitting at home writing a book. And then, if you make that transition and maybe you find that you hate being by yourself and writing a book because you're not getting anything written, and maybe there's something else there that is possible or more realistic.
I often say ask the people around you, your friends and family, because sometimes our unique, special superpower, I've heard it called, we don't even know ourselves because it comes so easily to us. I happen to be, my natural gifts are synthesizing. I can take data, I can take stories, and I really have an ability to get at the essence of what something is from a lot of information. And I remember I managed a grocery store in college. That's how I got into this field. I was the general manager of the deli on my college campus at Columbia University. Oh. It's called Fernald Grocery. And it was back in the late 80s. But I remember I had to do the schedule of the staff, and we had a lot of students, and they had only sort of 3-hour chunks available, and they had certain areas of the store they like to do. Some like to stock, others like to work at the cash register. So it was a big giant puzzle. And every week I would have to assign, I think it was 80 students, their schedule for the week according to when they could come and what they like to do.
Oh my gosh.
And some people might find that just a really daunting process. But for me, it was I'm all about people and kind of helping people sort of be their best, transform. And so for me, it was the early seeds of that weekly schedule was fun for me. I enjoyed, how do I make this work? What we need in the store with what our staff wants and is available to do and is good at. And so to me, that is what we're all looking for, to find that thing that comes very naturally and easy to us, because when you build a business around it, it doesn't feel like work. And you're going to be working so hard on the other things I mentioned, all the problem solving and the juggling, that the core product or service should really play to your unique gifts and talents and interests. And so that's why sometimes asking those around us, they can say, oh my goodness, design, you're a design person, or you're cook like a spa chef, the people around us see our talents sometimes better than we can ourselves.
That's so interesting, because I've had guests on and I would say, you're so artistic, you have just such a great sense of design and color. And they will completely, no, that's not me at all. I've never thought of myself as artistic, but this person clearly is. Talk to me. And so maybe we don't see in ourselves our own superpowers.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about this concept of the superpower? Because I think it's something that we don't think about as something we should capitalize on, that we're always chasing or thinking about the things we can't do as well. And so maybe we need to operate or work on the things we don't do as well, but we disregard the things that come naturally to us.
Yes, that's been something I've thought a lot about, is how when we go through the schooling system, our education, we come out knowing I'm not great at math, or I struggle with science, or, we come out knowing what we shouldn't do.
Yeah.
We don't come out knowing what we should do.
Yeah.
So, so I always tell people to look for the things in their lives when they're in the flow, where they don't even see time passing. It just is like fascinating, what the things that fascinate us, the things that we do very naturally and easily and we're drawn to. Like I think of a neighbor I had who every season she would redecorate both her outside, her sort of front deck to her house, and also her living room, dining room. She would decorate it for the seasons. And even though her business was facials and esthetician, she had that same attention to detail on what is the environment that I want people to feel when they see my house, when they come into my house. And she was just fascinated by going to like antique, like sort of flea markets and thrift shops and stuff. And so she was constantly redesigning. And that's something that prior to working with me on business coaching, she didn't even see that as a superpower. You know, she really focused on her schooling and her work in her salon in New York City on facials. But I brought that to her attention, and out of it, she developed a line of products and put it online. And so with our sort of 5 years of working together, by the end, she was like, you hear that ding? I just sold another tonic or whatever. And she designed the bottles, she designed the labels, she designed what went into the products. And so it was a way of using her superpower to expand her income, passive income, so that she didn't have to literally be doing the physical work of the facial as her main way of making money. She had a secondary income stream, and she was so happy that we did our work together because it allowed her to make more money and use her gifts.
That is amazing. And it's something she's doing as a side gig. She's not doing it full time. Does she not feel maybe secure enough to do it?
No, she full-time now, full-time with the salon where she sees clients in the city. And then she works on developing and marketing her skincare product line online. She sells it online.
A theme that I've been touching on with a lot of my guests has been how the world of work has changed. And I know you've seen this. You were describing your scheduling all your students at the on-campus grocery store, and you did that without an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Are people
pen and paper?
Gosh, yeah. Remember those days, right? Are you finding? Is it easier for people to find a new pathway in this new kind of very technologically changed world, or is it harder?
Good question. In some ways, it's easier in terms of all the technology has made it. I think of like there's a lot of stuff in a box now, kind of where you can design a website that has a blog and you can link it to Shopify or one of the other services, and you can get it all working so that you can literally be sitting the way we are at our in front of our screens and be running a business. So, you know, I got into this I'm trying to think of mid 90s is when I started training entrepreneurs. And at that time, it was very much brick and mortar. You know, it was really about much more like location and thinking about finding the perfect location for your business. And there was a lot more daily kind of doing of all sorts of tasks, but much more hands-on kind of, really where you had to, I think online has actually made it streamlined, I guess, streamlined, I would say. But the change and the shift has been learning how to use social media and how to, it's a very much more graphic, visual world now. That's where you really have to kind of almost be like a producer of Adobe and, photos and Zoom presentations, where it didn't used to be. It was more, you had a brochure or you had a business card or both, and you had a flyer.
And you had a physical store, right? You had a physical store.
Yeah.
And you're probably not dealing with, leases or negotiating your rent or, being part of which is, I suppose there's also a loss there too, because stores, those little retail stores were part of a community. They contributed to the streetscape in a neighborhood. That's also a loss though.
Yes, I really do. I see the, the sort of Amazon and, the big box businesses have really killed retail, really. So now it's easier, I would say, to do the online stuff, but it requires a different set of skills. And I think younger folks, I have 2 college-age children, and they just grew up with all this technology, what do they call it, a digital native.
Yes,
and so younger people, I think, will find the online businesses, to make sense, how to set them up and stuff, and all the skills needed that we were talking about before. But I think for those of us that were digital immigrants, where we had, we're used to sort of pen, paper, folders, phone calls. We are a little caught out now with the whole shift to the online business. But I want to use this opportunity now to stress that you have to make sure there's a sizable need for the product or service that you're interested in, that you've really tested it and done your customer discovery, because another thing we do at our center is really help people not start businesses where there isn't a sizable need that they're able to fill. And so that's yet another reason to come and do a kind of a business plan training, or it can be what's a new thing called a business model canvas, which is much more iterative, and it's not as you keep trying and testing until you find the right fit of the business model. So you not only have to get to know yourself and what your gifts, talents, abilities, interests are, but you need to match it with where there's a sizable need, and that you're the person that can reach that audience through the means of where they are living. So are they on Instagram? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Clubhouse, this new platform that's just taking off now, Clubhouse? So you need to figure out where your audience is, figure out a need that is being unmet, and then use your abilities to set up this online thing and do the right keywords and the right ads. And I know that if we use shopping, sort of clothing shopping, that something that really works is when they put an ad on your social media, whatever you're looking at, they'll send a few emails to your email, and then they'll put something on, let's say for me, it would be Facebook, that they would say, 60% off today only, like a call to action, but they've been slowly feeding you with different emails so that they're sort of on your mind, and then they do a social media kind of call to action. And so that's the type of thing today as an online entrepreneur, you have to figure out feeder things, and then pushing people into action with both your sort of weekly, monthly communications, and then your online social media posts. They have to work together.
Right.
So that's the kind of where you're going to be living when you do an online business.
And with an online business, unlike a retail store, your customer base could be national or even international. So do you have people looking at, well, I could sell this thing and it doesn't have to be, how many people are going to walk down the street and walk into my store, but how many people, in this entire country might be interested in buying it? Do you take that into account as well?
Yeah. It's making me think. Right before the COVID-19 pandemic started, I attended a branding workshop and in person, and they were talking about how online businesses today need to use technology. So really the kind of thing where Amazon tells us that our box has been delivered, and there might even be a picture of it at the front door. So they want the technology to be, we've been trained now to expect that we're going to get communications, but then the marketing on the website needs to be very authentic and really speak to the audience of what they're going through. Like now it might be about languishing from being indoors for all these months, and so the interesting thing that I paid attention to at that session was you have to use technology so that you look very big and like using systems, but then market it to be very personal and speaking directly to those traits of your target market. So it's an interesting to hold both those things at the same time. So I can't speak so much to international business because I deal more with smaller, more local business, here in Westchester. That's right. My kind of, when I work with clients, we're looking at maybe Westchester, New York State, maybe the East Coast. We're not really looking so much at even the whole country or the whole world, right. But I know there are definitely trainings. You had asked before about resources, and SBA.gov, Small Business Administration.gov, has a new program called Ascent, ASCENT, and it is geared at doing global business. And it's all sorts of trainings and resources for growing your business in an international way. So anyone who's interested in that, I would check out SBA.gov, and within that site, look up Ascent.
That is a great tip. When we conversed before, you turned me on to a really wonderful book called The Renaissance Soul, which I've actually talked about on my show, my first episode, the second season, because I loved her calculation. If you think I'm 60, if you think like, okay, I'm not sure I can get into all of this online stuff, and I'm really feeling like what you were describing right now. This is making me feel really old, because this is like, I am still a pen and paper person. I have all my cards out here with my questions for you. But she had a really interesting calculation, which is take your age now, project what age you can reasonably expect to live to. And I had nonagenarian parents, so I say, okay, I God willing, I can live to be 90. So that's 30 years ahead of me. But then the idea of taking my current age and subtracting that 30 and putting myself in my 30-year-old shoes, from that point to this moment, that's a long time. And even if you have that, and I have 15 years or however much anybody has, that's a long time. It's a long time to be living with, I can't do that. Or do you really want to even look back 5 years from now and say, I could have done that 5 years ago, and then I'd be 5 years further ahead? Do you find yourself working with people who are, struggling with this, I'm not sure I can take this on at this moment? I want to do it, but it seems overwhelming to me.
Yes, we definitely see that. And I would say that starting your own business requires a lot of courage and a lot of being uncomfortable, in that it really requires you do things that you have to tackle that which scares you, not in a should way or in a it's just, if business and society is moving towards more and more digital, that you're going to have to work with it. And so how can you do it? What classes can you take? Can you bring on interns from the local colleges to do some of the marketing or the social media? But really, as the owner, you're going to want to understand what they're doing. So you're going to want to learn from them. And so taking classes, getting help from people that really it does come more naturally. And I think what I have found is sometimes when you do the things that you sort of think you can't do, that can often be the most rewarding. Like you look back and you say, I did it. Like I figured it out. I did it. And obviously you don't want to get into something that just doesn't play to your skills, like we were talking about for a long time. You don't want to do something that is just not in your wheelhouse. But that said, I have to say, I think I've been doing this for 25 years, been coaching entrepreneurs, and I think the ones that make it are the ones that they face their fears and they just keep growing, learning, asking, getting the right support, and kind of growing their comfort zone, growing their courage muscle. And then a little secret is that once you do it once, you kind of like your dream gets a little bigger and the thing you're going to tackle gets a little bigger. And so it becomes it becomes something you want to do versus something you're terrified by. So at first it requires baby steps and courage, but it's organizations like ours. We're here from your tax dollars. So, free services or very low cost. And we're here to help you garner new skills and new empowerment that you can do it. And so I didn't mention before that at the SBA.gov site, you can look up women's business centers. We have 100 around the country, so different regions. And you can also look up what's called small business development centers. They're also SBA resource partners, and they're usually housed within universities. So in the New York City area, there's one at Baruch, there's one at Pace. I believe Fordham has one in Westchester. And so those do offer the similar classes, counseling, networking events, access to learning about getting financing for your business. So check us out. If this is something that seems like you might want to explore, go to SBA.gov, look up women's business centers, look up small business development centers, and look up Ascent, which is more for international and larger business, growing your business.
Persephone, this has been incredibly valuable. Wow, I think this is like the most valuable half hour I could offer my listeners. And honestly, replay this. My advice is to my listener, get a pad and a pen and take notes here, because Persephone has the most valuable information. If you are interested in starting a business, take note of everything she's had to say, because this is kind of amazing. I've learned so much. Starting a podcast is the easiest part of it is actually doing the episodes. The hardest part is doing the social media marketing. So I may be giving you a call.
Yes. And let me tell for the our website of WEDC is WEDC as in dog, C as in cat, WedsyBiz, BIZ.org, WedsyBiz.org. Sign up for our e-news. It's a weekly newsletter, and it has all our upcoming webinars and our 60-hour, the business planning class, and it has one-on-one individual counseling once you have a business plan. So come visit us, and I'm very happy to talk to you, Betsy, because you're very much running your own business now.
Yes, yes. Thank you. You know, I usually ask all my guests to give 3 pieces of advice, but I feel like this has been 30 minutes of advice, and I don't know if you have anything more you want to throw in there.
Yeah. No. The one thing I like to end on is envision an hourglass, you know, the thing where the sand pours through. And I really stress, narrow your focus of what your idea is, and it will expand your opportunities. So it goes in narrowing and then expands in terms of reach and client possibility, because you're really figuring out what is that need, where do they live, what do they spend time on, and, you know, and the more you match what you have with what they need, you actually then can really leverage it on social media, on the website, in person, you know. So it's kind of a lot of times people come to us and they want to be all things to all people, and that just leads to scattered results.
Right.
So if you want laser results, think of the narrow your focus to expand your opportunities.
That's fantastic. I've talked with other guests about the fact that we're not trying to invent the next Amazon. You know, if you find your niche and you find what, you know, where there's a need that matches your skill set, and the niche thing is more valuable, especially for people at midlife, than trying to, you know, conquer the world, which is not really realistic, and maybe that's already been done. But Persephone Zill.
Well, thank you. This has been
fantastic.
Been a pleasure. I really enjoyed. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having so much valuable information for my listener. Persephone Zill is Program Director at the Women's Enterprise Development Center in White Plains, New York. But as you heard her say, there are similar centers all over the country, at least 100, and the Small Business Association has similar programs that are available for anyone who wants to start a business and needs more information on how to do that. Thank you so much, Persephone, for joining me today.
Thank you.
Take care now.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
My pleasure.
Thanks.